Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to add my voice of gratitude for your holding this hearing today. I think it's important. In fact, I think it's important that we never stop asking ourselves a question of, have we struck the right balance with regulation and consumer protection in matters of safety and soundness. I'm not one who believes that we should never touch a hair on the head of Dodd-Frank by any means. Indeed, I'm pretty concerned that there are trends, especially among community banks, where we're losing some relationship-based banking and where, frankly, they're being channeled into certain lines of business that narrow them such that there's death spiral would be too strong a term, but render them less able to serve as many people as they might like. Having said all that, I find one aspect of today's hearing troubling, and it is, frankly, I think we're thinking too small bore here. We keep taking little tiny shots at this thing, and frankly, I'm just wanting to register, maybe it's time we took a big step back. Maybe it's time we looked at something like Mr. Honig's approach, or frankly, a brand new charter for certain institutions. I think a blue sky exercise is exactly what I would have taken my company through, especially if we wrapped our chain around our axle as often as we have with these tiny rifle shots, which frankly don't end up becoming law. So I just wanted to register that as a suggestion. Maybe it's time to think bigger than we are. Congressman Miller, I'm honored that you are here today. Sir, thank you. I understand your concerns about the FIREA section of H.R. 766, and frankly, I share many of them. But, always a but, I think Congressman Lukemeyer deserves a lot of credit for the first section of the bill, which requires examiners and banks to look at individual companies, not just the industry they're from, in addressing any concern or risk of a given account. And I want to relate this to my own state and that of Colorado's and Oregon's, who, as everyone knows, have recently enacted adult recreational use of marijuana. And I'm very glad to see FDIC has moved to implement that kind of a business-based approach. Would you, sir, notwithstanding your concerns about FIREA, at least acknowledge that a business-by-business approach is probably more commonsensical?
Of course, I think that no Federal regulator should single out any business or any industry because they don't approve, they don't like that business or industry. Now, I know that that's been the debate about choke point. Choke point, the critics say you're singling out businesses you don't like or industries you don't like, and the Department of Justice says we are not, FDIC says we are not, and the critics say yes you are, and then they say no we're not. Yes we are, no we're not. And I don't really want to be involved in that debate. I don't think I have anything to add to that debate.
Well, then give me my last 1 minute and 37 seconds, please.
All right.
But I do thank you. Mr. Sharp.
Yes, sir.
I don't have enough time left to ask the two questions I want, but I do want everybody in this room to know that this gentleman comes from a very distinguished lineage. I ran into Jess at the spectacular celebration down at the Smithsonian of fighter aces. I was very privileged to be the wingman to Congressman Johnson in passing the Congressional Gold Medal for fighter aces. We haven't created a fighter ace in about 40-some years in this country. There are approximately 100 of them left. Mr. Sharp's grandfather flew P-51s, Jess?
P-51s, yes, sir.
Over Europe. Again, there just aren't very many of those heroes left, and he and his grandfather were there, and we honor your family service. You have a lot to live up to.
Yes, I do.
Okay, got a few seconds. I've been working with Mr. Posey on a bill to set up a no-action letter, and with your office as well, and very constructively, and I thank you for that. I guess in 23 seconds, what do you see as the most salient benefits of a working no-action letter process? That bill's not before us today, but I still hope we can find the right partisan balance and philosophical balance to be able to move us in this direction. Even Mr. Cordray acknowledged that what they came forth with was too narrow. You started tapping, Mr. Chair, before it reached zero. I yield back the balance of my time.
I thank